Welcome to the video for the mat050 Final Review Study Guide. This is page 4, starting with number 9, question about grades in a class. And basically just dealing with percentages. First of all, the question A is pretty straightforward. How many students got a B? And we know that 30% got B's. So 30 out of 100, but there weren't 100. There were 40. We multiply by 40, and we can divide this by 10 and divide this by 10, divide this by 10 and divide this by 10, and we end up just doing 3 times 4 divided by 1. If that doesn't make sense to you, go ahead and put that in your calculator, but that's our answer there. Second question, how many students got an F in Mr. Voss's class? Show work below. We go back up, and it doesn't tell us how many got an F, but we know that students either had to get an A or a B or a C or a D or an F. And we know that we know how many got an A, how many got a B, how many got a C, how many got a D. So we can actually take 100% and subtract everybody who got something that wasn't an F. Then we know that's how many people got an F. So we minus 15 minus 30 minus 20 and minus 15. And I'm going to put the two 15s together. When we're subtracting a lot of things, we can subtract them in any order as long as we always subtract the same number. I can't change it around and take 15 minus 100. But I can do 100 minus 15 minus 15 minus 30. The two 15s will give me 30. Then I have two 30s that makes 60. And 60 and 20 is 80. That tells me I have 20% got Fs. And I should say this whole thing is divided by 100. Okay. So now I have 20 divided by 100. For my ratio of students of F's to total, I'm going to take that 20 over 100 now. I'm going to multiply that by 40. And once again, I can divide the 20 and the 40 by both by 10. Rather than dividing by 100, it gives me 2 times 4. It gives me 8. If you don't see how I got that, put it in your calculator. Do 20 times 40, divide by 100. You should get 8. Question C, you must get a C or better to pass. So we need to know how many people are going to pass. Well, anybody who got an A, anybody who got a B, anybody who got a C is going to pass. So we take our percentages for A, 15% plus, B was 30% plus the 20% that got C's. We add those up, and to get our percentage, we'll divide by 100. Or to change percentage to a decimal, we'll divide by 100, because that really means that 30 plus 50, 30 plus 20 is 50. I add 15, I get 65. 65 out of 100 passed, but we don't have 100, we have 40. So we multiply by our 40 students, and that tells us that, like I said, 65 out of 100 passed. Multiply that times 40, And I get 6.5 times 4, 13 times 2, 26. 26 out of the 40 students passed. Okay. Pause the video for a moment, take a quick look at number 10. When you think you have an answer to number 10, come back and watch the video. Okay, now that you've looked at number 10, somebody's filming scenes for a new Godzilla movie. They're using a model of the Godzilla monster on a 1 to 50 scale. This means that 1 inch on the model corresponds to 50 inches on the real-life monster. So they need to look at how they're going to construct the Godzilla monster for the movie. So question A: if the teeth on the model monster were ½ inch long, how many feet long were the monster's teeth supposed to be in real life? In other words, what are they trying to make it look like the monster? How long are they trying to make it look like the teeth are? So we're going to take that ½ inch, and the 1 to 50 scale means 1 on the model equals 50 on the real monster. So the real monster is 50 times as big. I'm going to take 50 times 1/2. And I should have written inches after half, but 50 times 1/2 is 25 inches. But the question wants us to do that in feet and inches. So I'm going to divide 25 by 4. Divide 25 by 12. And I'm going to do it kind of the old-fashioned way because I don't want a decimal. If you do it on your calculator, you'll get a decimal. But yeah, I'll show you in a minute how to do that on the calculator. I know this goes in twice, and that leaves me 24. And then I have 1 left over. So I'm going to say a remainder of 1. Or 1/12. You can think of that as 1/12. But I don't really want it in a fraction. I want 2 feet. And I have 1 inch left over. So I say 2 feet, 1 inch. And that's my answer. Filmmakers wanted the monster to appear 125 feet tall. How tall did the model have to be? Again, write your answer in feet and inches. So with this one, I will start off much the same way I did in A, except I don't know what the size of the monster of the model is. I know what the size of the monster is. So I'm going to put an X for the size of the model, and I'm going to multiply that by 50 and say it's equal to 125 feet. And just to kind of move things along a bit, I'm going to go ahead and multiply that times 12. So I'm going to change, right away, I'm going to change those feet to inches. It's going to give me a big number, but it'll save me having to work with fractions for a while. And then I'll divide both sides by 50. Because I have to solve now for x. X is the number that I multiply by 50 to get 125 times 12. I can divide 125 times 12 to get x. And I don't have room to write it below, so I'll write it over here. X equals 25, 5 times 6, which is 30. And if you don't see how I got that, just put it in your calculator. I reduced the fraction by 25. I divided 125 by 25. I divided 50 by 25. That left me 5 times 12 divided by 2. I divided 12 by 2 and I got 6. 5 times 6 was 30 inches. And I'm going to write inches. But I need it in feet and inches. So once again, I'm going to see how many feet are in 30. And once again, I get 2. It gives me 24. And I'm left with 6. So I have 2 feet with a remainder of 6. Or in other words, I have x equals 2 feet, 6 inches. Go ahead and pause the video now. Take a look at question 11. Try to come up with an answer. You'll notice question 11 is in a circle. That means it's one of the more important questions. Going to be a big part of the test. So take a good look at question 11. When you think you have an answer, come back and see if you agree with me. Okay, now that you've looked at question 11, architect is calculating the area of the floor for a house with a turret. Turret is the round portion usually on the corner of a house. Is her calculation correct? Explain your answer. You don't really need to know how to calculate the area. I'm going to go over that really quickly. There's a rectangle here, and then there's a part of a circle attached to the rectangle. So I'm going to do the area of the rectangle first. Area equals 40 times 80. To get the area of the rectangle. So I know this part is correct. I'm going to add the area of the circle. The area of the circle is pi times the radius squared. So the area of my circle is pi times 10 squared. But I don't have a whole circle. The circle actually extends into the house, and I've already counted that area. I've already counted 1/4 of the circle. The turret is only adding 3/4 of that circle. So I take 3/4 times pi r squared. And that's sort of where this comes from, but you'll notice the exponent is 3. So when I explain, I say the area is wrong because the exponent of the feet is going to be cubed. It will be feet to the 3rd power. For area, I need feet to the 2nd power, not feet to the 3rd power. And I'm not going to write that out because you don't want to spend time watching me write, but that's the idea. To calculate area, you need to multiply feet times feet. Whether you do that literally multiplying 40 times 80 for a rectangle, 40 feet times 80 feet, or whether you do your circle where you do 10 feet squared or 10 feet times 10 feet, somehow you have to multiply feet times feet. You want feet to the 2nd power, not feet to the 3rd power. Okay. Pause the video a moment, take a look at question 12, and when we come back, actually I'm going to do question 12 on page 5. So come back to, or open the video for page 5, and we see how you do question 12 then.